I had feelings for Oliver from the age of 18 until I was 22. For those years, the greatest amusement in Beijing's social circles was watching me chase after him, doing all sorts of foolish things just to get his attention. Later, a friend once asked him, "If you didn't like her, why didn't you just reject her outright?" Oliver simply shrugged with a smile. "I kept her close for entertainment." From that moment on, it was as if a tide of love that had swelled in my heart suddenly ebbed away. I stopped chasing him. I removed the necklace he had given me and gradually grew much calmer. When there were rumors about him seeing someone new, I would simply smile and let it pass. Even when he brought a new girlfriend to our gatherings, I no longer felt jealous or made a scene. Then one day, he told me he was really getting married and personally handed me the wedding invitation. Everyone expected me to lose control, to break down in regret. Even his best friend Bruno looked at me sternly and asked, "Are you really not going to try to stop him?" I frowned, my voice trembling as I replied, "Bruno, can you ask me that question after you get off me?" Chapter 1: The first time Oliver brought a date to one of our gatherings. It had been 3 months since we last saw each other, practically a miracle in our circle. A friend leaned over and whispered a word of comfort to me. "Selena, if you can't stand it later, just find an excuse and leave. And please, let's not cause a scene at someone's birthday today." I smiled but said nothing. Oliver's new girlfriend was beautiful and looked like a perfect match for him. When the two of them entered, holding hands, everyone instinctively glanced at me. I sat quietly, keeping a faint smile on my face the whole time. "Let me introduce my girlfriend Lily," Oliver announced, deliberately emphasizing my girlfriend, his eyes brushing briefly over my face. My expression didn't change. My smile didn't falter. I didn't even blink. Oliver didn't look my way again. The atmosphere soon lightened up. When it was time to cut the cake, things got a little chaotic. I used to love joining in the fun, smearing cake on others, and then hiding behind Oliver so he'd shield me. Though he would grumble about how childish and annoying I was, he still protected me. This time, I kept my distance. But my closest friends didn't leave me alone. They chased me around with cake in their hands. Laughing, I dodged them, carefully staying far away from Oliver. With cream on my face and my dress a mess, I finally pleaded for mercy, and only then did they change targets. I slipped through the crowd and headed to the bathroom to clean up. Just as I reached the door, I heard Oliver call out, "Selena." Instinctively, I turned around. Chapter 2: The light in the hallway cast shadows across Oliver's face, obscuring much of his expression. We were standing close, yet I couldn't quite read the emotions in his eyes. "Do you need something?" I asked. Oliver didn't answer right away. His gaze landed on my neck. "You changed your necklace." I froze for a second but quickly composed myself. Yes, I changed it. The previous one had been a gift from him for my 18th birthday, which I had worn for 4 years. His lips curled into a smile I couldn't quite decipher. "Why didn't you come to the last gathering?" The last gathering. I hesitated, my ears warming. I had intended to go, but at the last minute, Bruno invited me out, and in the end, both of us skipped it. "Were you avoiding me?" Oliver asked casually. "Something came up, so I couldn't make it," I replied. Oliver didn't seem convinced, but he didn't press the matter. "What do you think of Lily?" "She's beautiful, elegant, and clearly from a well-bred family," I answered honestly. Oliver stared at me, without blinking. "I think so too. That's why I'm suddenly thinking about getting married." "That's great. Don't forget to send me the invitation," I said with a faint smile. Oliver chuckled softly. "Of course. You'll be the first to get one." With that, he turned and walked away, seemingly losing interest in the conversation. I didn't linger either, hurrying to the bathroom to clean the cream off my face. But when I entered, I saw Bruno there, smoking. "Weren't you supposed to be traveling?" I asked, surprised, as I took out a tissue to wipe my face. Bruno stubbed out his cigarette and looked at me in the mirror, his expression a mix of amusement and mockery. "Came back early. Didn't want to miss the show, just now." I turned, crumpling the tissue and tossing it at him. "What do you mean by that?" He didn't dodge, in fact, he looked pleased to be hit. "What's going on?" "I leave for just 2 days, and now you two are rekindling the old flame?" Chapter 3: Rekindling? It never even started. I shot back, glaring at him.
Bruno no dead.
True. Then, without warning, he stepped closer. Don't move. What? Bruno leaned in, wiping a bit of cream off my earlobe. Your dress is dirty too. I know. I bought you a new one while I was traveling. Want to try it on? Following Bruno upstairs to one of the rooms, I felt a little dazed. To be honest, Bruno and I had never really gotten along. Ever since we were kids, he loved teasing me, calling me spoiled and a crybaby. Later, when I started chasing after Oliver, everyone in our circle treated me like a source of entertainment, not maliciously, just playfully. But Bruno always seemed to disdain how I clung to Oliver. Over the years, we barely spoke. Until that night. By some twist of fate, we ended up in bed together, and everything became complicated. I deleted his number and decided never to cross paths with him again. But it seemed Bruno had other plans. The last time we met, my intention was to set things straight between us. And yet, somehow, we ended up in bed again. To be honest, the second time was much better than the first. I couldn't deny it, I had started to want him. I couldn't help but glance at him through the elevator mirror. A rebellious third-generation heir. And on top of that, annoyingly attractive. Unlike the other rich boys in our circle, he had grown up on a military base and spent years in the army. His physique was unmatched. I thought about his abs, that Adonis belt, those firm muscles. And instead of getting angry, he had awkwardly tried to comfort me. The memory left me strangely unsettled. Selena. Bruno suddenly pulled me close. What are you thinking about? Your ears are completely red. Thinking about your body, I mean how you stay in shape, I stammered, covering my face with my hands. I couldn't bring myself to look at him again, but I made a decision. Tonight would be the last time. Once it was over, I'd make things clear. I would draw the line, cut all ties, and bury this secret between us forever. For as soon as we stepped out of the elevator and entered the room, Bruno pushed me against the door. He had clearly gained some experience this time. He remembered to place his hand behind my back, so I wouldn't get hurt. Shower first, I managed to gasp, pushing him gently between deep kisses. But Bruno seemed insatiable. His palm pressed firmly against my lower back, pulling me tightly against him with a bit of force. He lowered his head and kissed me again, the kiss deepening little by little. My legs began to tremble, and I could barely stand in my heels. Giving in, I kicked off my shoes and placed my feet on top of his. Bruno's breathing suddenly grew uneven. He scooped me up in his arms and carried me toward the bathroom, holding me so tightly it felt as if he wanted to undo me. Warm water poured over us, soaking our bodies completely. Bruno cupped my face in his hands, kissing me over and over again. His usually defiant, cold features seemed softened, almost tender, under the warm stream. For a brief moment, as his intense gaze locked with mine, something stirred in my chest. Selena, he pressed his forehead against mine, saying my name in a rough voice. I felt dizzy, my responses fragmented by the sound of his voice. He intertwined his fingers with mine and asked hoarsely, "Doesn't it feel better than last time?" I bit my lip and refused to answer. Instead, my sharp nails dug deep into the tense muscles of his arm, leaving long, visible scratch marks on his skin. Chapter 5. When it was over, Bruno carried me to the bathroom to wash up. I leaned against the edge of the tub, watching him shower. Hot water cascaded down his broad, muscular back, droplets splashing everywhere. Maybe the experience had been too good, because the years of dislike I'd felt for him seemed to fade away. But I knew very well we weren't each other's type. Ending this sooner would be better for both of us. Bruno lifted me out of the tub. Wrapped in a large bathrobe, I sat comfortably on the bathroom counter while he dried my hair. When he finished, he carried me back to the room with great care. Resting my head on his shoulder, half asleep, I murmured his name. Bruno. What? Let's not see each other again after this. Don't come looking for me. I'm going to block you on WeChat, calls, QQ, Weibo, everything. Please keep what happened between us a secret. No one must know. Bruno suddenly stopped. Selena, he said heavily. Drowsily, I opened my eyes to look at him for a moment before drifting off completely. Bruno gently laid me on the bed. He stood by it for a long while, then let out a self-mocking laugh. Selena, you really have no heart. But I didn't hear him. Chapter 6. The next morning, in front of Bruno, I deleted all his contact info. He sat on the sofa, expressionless, a cigarette between his fingers, though he never took a puff. Wearing the new dress he had bought me, I smiled nonchalantly. I'm leaving. For the next month or so, Bruno and I didn't see each other again. But curiously, Oliver started appearing in front of me more often. I began turning down less important gatherings, trying to minimize any chance of running into him. Until a friend's engagement party came along, one I couldn't avoid. That night, Oliver had a bit too much to drink and ended up making a scene in front of everyone. Selena, do you have a problem with me? I was taken aback. You're drunk, Oliver. Go get some rest. We've been friends for so many years, and now you're avoiding me like I did something to hurt you. I've just been busy lately, that's all. Come on, Selena. I know what you're thinking. Oliver let out a cold laugh. But no matter how upset you are, it won't change anything. You can't compare to Lily. I couldn't help but laugh. Upset?
Why?
You're really drunk, I said, standing up to leave. But Oliver grabbed my arm. Weren't you always so jealous? Why aren't you now? Did you finally realize that making a scene doesn't change anything? I frowned and yanked my arm free. That's when I noticed Bruno standing not far away, watching the scene unfold with a mocking smile. That expression, as if he was enjoying the show, only made me more furious. Taking out my phone, I opened WeChat. Bruno had sent me several friend requests before, all of which I had ignored. But now I accepted them. Then I sent him a message. Shall we meet? Bruno took half a minute to reply. Yes. Same room as last time. The moment I sent that message, I blocked him again right away. Bruno. Chapter 7. As the engagement party was winding down, I quietly told a friend I was leaving early, grabbed my purse, and slipped out. Oliver asked where I was going, but I ignored him. Someone as proud as him wouldn't stoop to press me. Just as I was leaving the banquet hall, I heard some friends calling out to Bruno. Bruno, you're leaving too? Didn't you say we'd keep drinking after? Something personal came up. Next round's on me, he replied. Oliver stood up, pretending to stop him. What personal matter could be more important than a friend's engagement? What have you been up to, disappearing so often lately? Hidden behind some lush plants, I watched the group. Bruno, dressed in a sharp black suit for the occasion, stood next to Oliver, noticeably taller than him. Unlike Oliver's slender, almost delicate frame, Bruno's physique was sculpted by years of military training. His very presence radiated a raw, powerful masculinity. That saying, skinny with clothes, muscular without, seemed made for him. I couldn't help remembering the nights we'd spent together. How Bruno could lift me effortlessly with one arm. How he'd carried me from the room to the bathroom without missing a step. And then, the memory of how I couldn't hold back, leaving a trail of wet kisses down his waist and abs, made my cheeks burn again. I raised a hand to my face, trying to cool it down. When I glanced back at Bruno, he seemed to sense my gaze and looked in my direction. Instinctively, I took a step back, my heart racing, my face even hotter. It's important, Bruno said firmly. Very important. Oliver grew more curious. What's so important? You seem pretty serious about this. Did you fall for someone? Yeah, a couple times I saw you glued to your phone. Really? Are you dating? Do we know her? Bruno smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. For some reason, I thought that smile looked a little lonely. I'll tell you another time, he said. She's a very private person, doesn't want to go public yet. I'd rather not say too much, she'd be upset if she found out. Oliver looked at him thoughtfully. Really? Haven't seen you with any girls lately. It's recent, Bruno replied, locking eyes with Oliver. When she's ready, I'll bring her along to meet everyone. All right then, we won't get in the way of your big plans. Oliver grinned playfully. The iron has finally blossomed, huh? Then he leaned in, lowering his voice. So you two crossed that line yet? Bruno's expression grew a bit more serious. I don't like talking about things like that. It's disrespectful to her. Oliver looked a little embarrassed. Bruno didn't let the awkwardness linger. I'm heading out. Next round's on me. See you then. All right, but bring your girlfriend next time. Yeah, we're all curious to meet her. Bruno nodded politely, then turned and left. He stepped through the revolving door and disappeared from sight. As he walked away, someone casually remarked, "Don't you guys think it's odd? Lately, Bruno and Selena are always missing from these gatherings." "You don't think they're involved, do you?" Oliver's face darkened with a flash of irritation. "Don't talk nonsense. Bruno's hated Selena since we were kids. Everyone knows how he is. He can't stand clingy girls." "That's true. Those two always acted like they couldn't stand each other." The conversation quickly shifted to another topic. But Oliver couldn't shake the heavy, cloudy feeling in his chest. He glanced through the glass doors. Bruno was already gone. And Selena had left early too. The thought kept circling in his mind, and he couldn't help piecing things together. It was true at every recent gathering. The ones missing were always the same too. But maybe it was just a coincidence. Oliver tried to reassure himself. After all, he had known Bruno for years. They were like brothers. One thing he was certain of, Bruno and Selena couldn't possibly stand each other. What Oliver didn't know was that the two people he thought hated each other were now headed to the same hotel just a few steps apart. Chapter 8. When I stepped out of the shower, Bruno was already sitting on the living room sofa. "There's another bathroom. Why don't you shower there?" I asked casually, drying my hair. Bruno leaned back against the sofa, his gaze fixed on me. "Didn't you say we wouldn't be in touch anymore?" I glanced at him. "You can leave if you want." The corner of his lips twitched into a self-mocking smile, but he still got up. He came over, took the towel from my hands, and started drying my hair. My hair is long, and I always get impatient trying to dry it myself. If he was willing to help, I was happy to let him. Once my hair was almost dry, Bruno turned off the dryer. "I'm going to shower." I replied lazily, curling up on the sofa and turning on the TV. But before heading to the bathroom, Bruno leaned down and kissed the corner of my lips. "Wait for me." About 15 minutes later, the sound of running water stopped. Shortly after, Bruno opened the bathroom door and came out. A towel was wrapped around his waist, highlighting his broad shoulders and narrow hips, a perfect inverted triangle. His chest and abs were perfectly sculpted. Long legs, firm glutes, and a healthy, tanned complexion gave him an irresistible allure. Even though I had already seen his body several times, I still felt a little shy every time I saw him like that. I couldn't help but steal a hungry glance for a few seconds before looking away. Bruno seemed to notice, and the corner of his lips curled into a faint smile. He casually rubbed his hair with the towel, tossed it aside, and walked straight toward me. Before I could react, he lifted me from the sofa. Bruno, startled, I clung tightly to his neck and looked at him in mock annoyance. But his eyes sparkled with genuine amusement. "Selena." "What? What position do you want tonight?" His question was teasing, and a light kiss brushed my ear. His breath mingled intimately with mine, wrapping me in a tender sensation. When I spoke again, my voice had lost its firmness. "As if you know that many." Bruno chuckled smugly. "I've been practicing since last time." "Shameless. Of all the things you could practice, want to try?" I tried to stay calm, but my heart was already pounding wildly.
"Sure.
"But if I don't like it, I'll find someone else." Before I could finish the sentence, Bruno cut me off with a sudden, firm kiss. My unfinished words melted into a breathless murmur, swallowed by the depth of his kiss. When we reached the bed, he laid me down on the soft mattress. The belt of my robe slipped loose with one swift movement. His rough, calloused hands, hardened by years of military training, had a strength I hadn't felt before. I couldn't help but let out a soft moan. His breathing grew ragged, heavier. "Selena," his eyes burned with desire, his voice terribly hoarse. "Why does it feel so different this time?" Dazed, I looked at him, not quite understanding what he meant. But it seemed he couldn't bear the way I was looking at him. His fiery kisses trailed down slowly, pausing at the peak of my chest. A breeze lifted the white curtains, sending the tassels fluttering in the air. As they danced, my waist arched instinctively in response to him. "Selena, do you like it?" I shook my head, biting my lip to keep from answering. But reflex tears began to gather at the corners of my eyes. Bruno didn't push too hard. He simply kept repeating the question, and when I wouldn't answer, he pressed deeper, demanding a response. Chapter 9. "Selena, are you still going to block me?" My broken sobs were interrupted by the rhythm of his movements. No, I won't block you. My fingers gripped his forearm tightly, nails digging into his firm, warm skin. Once tasted, pleasure becomes addictive. And Bruno was definitely a fast learner. Each time we were together, the experience was much better than the last. But now, he wouldn't let me have it all at once. He tormented me relentlessly, like a dull blade slicing through my sanity, leaving me with an unbearable desperation. Now tell me, do you like it? I didn't answer, so he pushed deeper, harder. I like it, I gasped. Selena, do you want to be with me? My eyes flew open in shock.
Bruno?
He didn't answer, he just looked down at me. Those rebellious, untamed eyes I used to hate now seemed as deep as an abyss, full of restrained intensity and emotions I couldn't read. You've always hated me, haven't you? If I hated you, would I keep coming back to you? He lowered his gaze, a faint smile playing at his lips. Even with desire threatening to spill over, he held himself back with heart-wrenching control. Selena, I'll only ask you once. Do you want to be with me? I felt like I was losing my mind. My body, my spirit, my reason, everything was on the brink of collapse. In the end, desire consumed it all. Yes, Bruno, Selena. His kiss landed softly. I'll give you everything, Selena. Whatever you want, it will be yours. Chapter 10. When it was all over in a wave of intense pleasure, the sky outside had already turned completely dark. My phone was filled with missed calls and WeChat messages, half of them from Oliver. I didn't respond. After thinking for a moment, I blocked him on all platforms. A little later, Bruno's phone started ringing. He answered, and Oliver's voice came through clearly. Bruno, where are you? Bruno reached over and pulled me into his chest. I was utterly spent, lying against him like a wet rag, unable to move. I'm with my girlfriend. What is it? It's nothing really. It's just that no one can get in touch with Selena. I'm not too worried, but others are getting anxious. You live near her place, did you see her come home? Bruno glanced down at me and I quickly put a finger to my lips, signaling him to stay quiet. Yeah, I saw her. She's home. All right then, I won't interrupt your date. Oliver joked a little before finally hanging up. Bruno set his phone aside, then picked up mine. Unlock it. Why? Take me off your block list. Reluctantly, I unlocked my phone and watched as he removed all the blocks I had set. A swirl of complicated, unexplainable emotions stirred inside me. To be honest, I hadn't really wanted to block him in the first place. Keeping things the way they were, this arrangement wasn't bad at all. After all, each time was incredibly satisfying. Selena. What now? Don't just come looking for me whenever you feel like it. And don't forget what you promised earlier. I hesitated, searching for a response, before blurting out. Do you really believe what people say in bed? Are you stupid? Bruno let out a laugh, clearly amused and a little exasperated.
Fine.
If you won't keep your word, he leaned in, gripping my chin. Tomorrow I'll go to your house and tell your parents everything we've been doing.
Bruno?
I panicked instantly. If my parents found out about Bruno and me, they'd pull out the family registry and force us to marry on the spot. All right, I get it. I'll keep my word.
But
can you give me a little time? Of course. When you've thought it through and are ready to make our relationship official, we'll continue. I'm not that desperate. Bruno gently bit my lips. No, you're not that desperate. Except for making me change the sheets every time.
Bruno?
Embarrassed and furious, I bit his jaw hard. It wasn't my fault he was always so mischievous, pushing me to my limits. If it weren't for that, how could I react so intensely? Chapter 11. Not long after, a friend who had been studying abroad hosted a gathering to celebrate their return. For once, Bruno, Oliver, and I were all at the same place. As usual, Oliver brought Lily with him. As for Bruno and me, our ever-considerate friends made sure to seat us far apart. After all, when I used to chase Oliver, Bruno's disdain for me had been so obvious even a dog could sense it. As the rounds of drinks flowed, the atmosphere grew more lively. Someone asked Oliver, Oliver, when will we get to toast at your wedding? Oliver cast me a quick, nearly imperceptible glance, then pulled Lily closer with affection.
Soon.
We're already planning it. Instinctively, everyone's eyes turned to me. I didn't even lift an eyebrow, simply continued enjoying my soup. Tonight's meal was delicious, with many of my favorite dishes on the menu. My phone buzzed. It was a message from Bruno. Want to take a walk later to help digest? Where? By the lake. There's a nice artificial one nearby. Okay. I was feeling a bit full, and watching Oliver and Lily's constant displays of affection was making me nauseous. A walk sounded like a good idea. Let's go separately. You head out first, I'll catch up. Bruno didn't reply, but a moment later, he stood up, cigarette pack in hand. I'm going out for a smoke. Need some air, he said casually. About 10 minutes after he left, I got up too, going to the restroom. Everyone was engrossed in conversation and laughter, so no one noticed. What I didn't know was that as I left, Oliver had been watching me closely. And just as the door closed behind me, he stood up as well. Chapter 12. Bruno texted me saying he was waiting downstairs. I didn't go to the restroom instead. I headed straight to the elevator. When I came down, I crossed the lobby and found him standing under a tree, smoking. When he saw me, he put out his cigarette. The night breeze was a little chilly, and without thinking, I crossed my arms for warmth. Bruno approached and, without a word, pulled me into his arms. He leaned down and kissed me naturally, as if it were the most normal thing in the world. I didn't resist. I tilted my face up and kissed him back. We lost ourselves in each other, kissing deeply, unaware of the figure standing silently on the stairs behind us. It was Oliver, his face dark, expression unreadable, watching everything in silence. Not long after that night, Oliver and Lily's wedding announcement was made. The invitations soon reached everyone in our circle. I also received one delivered personally by Oliver. I accepted the invitation and congratulated him sincerely. Congrats on your happy ending. I'll be there on your big day. But Oliver didn't look particularly happy. Selena. To be honest, I never thought I'd end up marrying Lily, he said softly. In fact, I used to think that in the end, I'd given to you that you'd convince me. There's no need to talk about that now. I interrupted with a faint smile. I was young and foolish back then. Did a lot of silly things. Don't dwell on it, it's all in the past. The last hint of a smile faded from Oliver's face. Selena, I'm not joking. I really am getting married. I know. Congratulations, I replied with the same smile. Oliver's gaze turned cold, and he let out a bitter laugh. You know, I always thought that of all of us, Bruno would be the first to get married. Instinctively, I asked, why? Oliver looked straight at me. Because I've known for a long time that Bruno had someone he really liked her a lot. He told me he planned to marry her as soon as she reached legal age. But something happened, and they didn't end up together.
And now?
It looks like I beat him to it. I froze, emotions swirling chaotically inside me. But in the end, everything condensed into a bitter sense of emptiness. So that's why Bruno had never been caught up in any scandals all these years. It turns out, he had always had someone in his heart. If it hadn't been for that drunken mistake we made, our lives never would have crossed this way. I don't even like him. I've always been drawn to calm, refined, elegant men. Bruno and I had been at odds since childhood. I never liked him. So then why? Why does it hurt so much to know there's someone important in his heart? Selena, Oliver said, pointing to the invitation in my hand. Be sure to check the time. Don't be late. Chapter 13. That day, I went out drinking with my best friend. If my parents ever found out about Bruno and me, they would pull out the family registry and force us to marry on the spot. All right, I understand. I'll keep my word. But can you give me a little time? Of course. Once you've thought it through and you're ready to make our relationship official, we'll continue. I'm not that desperate. Bruno gently bit my lips. No, you're not that desperate. Except you make me change the sheets every time.
Bruno?
Embarrassed and furious, I bit his jaw hard. It wasn't my fault he was always so wicked, always pushing me to the edge. If not for that, how could I react so intensely? Chapter 11. Not long after, a friend who had been studying abroad hosted a welcome-back party. For once, Bruno, Oliver, and I were all present at the same place. As always, Oliver brought Lily with him. And as for Bruno and me, our ever-considerate friends made sure to seat us far apart. After all, when I was chasing Oliver, Bruno's contempt for me had been so obvious even a dog could sense it. As the drinks flowed, The atmosphere grew more lively. Someone asked Oliver, "Oliver, when will we get to toast at your wedding?" Oliver gave me a fleeting glance, barely noticeable, then pulled Lily close and answered with affection, "Soon. We're already planning it." Instinctively, everyone's eyes drifted to me. I didn't even flinch. I simply kept enjoying my soup. Tonight's meal was delicious, with several of my favorite dishes on the menu. My phone buzzed. It was a message from Bruno. "Want to go for a walk to help digest? Where? There's a nice artificial lake nearby." Okay. I was feeling a bit stuffed, and the constant displays of affection between Oliver and Lily were making me nauseous. A walk sounded perfect. "Let's go separately. You go first, I'll follow." Bruno didn't reply, but a moment later, he stood up, cigarette pack in hand. "Going out for a smoke. Need some air," he said casually. About 10 minutes later, I got up too. Going to the restroom. Everyone was busy chatting and laughing. No one noticed. What I didn't know was that as I left, Oliver had been watching me intently. And just as the door closed behind me, he stood up as well. Chapter 12. Bruno texted me that he was waiting downstairs. I didn't go to the restroom. I headed straight for the elevator. When I came down, I crossed the lobby and found him standing under a tree, smoking. When he saw me, he stubbed out his cigarette. The night breeze was chilly, and instinctively, I crossed my arms to keep warm. Bruno came over and, without a word, pulled me into his arms. He leaned down and kissed me naturally, as if it were the most normal thing in the world. I didn't resist. I tilted my face up and kissed him back. We got lost in the kiss, unaware of the figure standing silently on the stairs behind us. It was Oliver, his face dark and expression unreadable, watching everything in silence. Not long after that night, Oliver and Lily's wedding was announced. The invitation soon reached everyone in our circle. I also received one delivered personally by Oliver. I accepted it and congratulated him sincerely. "Congrats on your happy ending. I'll be there on your big day." But Oliver didn't look particularly happy. "Selena, honestly, I never thought I'd end up marrying Lily," he said softly. "I actually thought that in the end, I'd give in to you, that you'd convince me." "There's no need to bring that up now," I interrupted with a faint smile. "I was young and foolish back then. Did a lot of silly things. It's all in the past now." The last trace of a smile vanished from Oliver's face. "Selena, I'm not joking. I really am getting married." "I know." "Congratulations," I replied with the same smile. Oliver's gaze grew cold, and he let out a bitter laugh. "You know, I always thought Bruno would be the first of us to get married." Instinctively, I asked, "Why?" Oliver stared at me. "Because I've known for a long time that Bruno had someone he liked. Really liked. He once told me he planned to marry her as soon as she reached legal age. But something happened, and they didn't end up together. And now looks like I beat him to it." I froze, emotions swirling inside me. But in the end, it all condensed into a bitter emptiness. So that's why Bruno had never been caught up in any scandals. He'd always had someone in his heart. If it weren't for that drunken mistake we made, our lives would never have crossed this way. I don't even like him. I've always preferred calm, refined, elegant men. Bruno and I had been at odds since childhood. I never liked him. So then why does it hurt so much knowing there's someone important in his heart? "Selena," Oliver said, pointing to the invitation in my hand. "Be sure to check the time. Don't be late." Chapter 13. That night, I went out drinking with my best friend. She thought I was devastated about Oliver and Lily's engagement. But that wasn't it at all. The idea of their marriage didn't stir even the slightest feeling in my heart. The only thing on my mind was Bruno and the girl he loved. What kind of person was she? What was Bruno like when he truly liked someone? If that girl came back, would he give up on me and go back to her? I even found myself imagining ridiculous scenarios of them together. I wasn't sure if I couldn't let go of him because of his body, or if I had started to feel something for him. After saying goodbye to my best friend, I called Bruno. When he came to pick me up, I was so drunk I couldn't even stand, sitting obediently on a bench by the roadside, waiting for him. I watched his car pull up quickly. I watched his tall, upright figure get out of the car and walk toward me. I saw his face, strong yet incredibly attractive. And suddenly, I felt an overwhelming urge to cry. By the time Bruno stopped in front of me, my face was already streaked with tears. But he didn't wipe them away for me. He didn't comfort me gently, like he did in bed. He just stood there with an unreadable expression, looking at me in silence. The anguish in my heart surged like a fountain. "Bruno," I sobbed, reaching a trembling hand toward him. His expression softened just a little. After a few seconds, he finally reached out and wiped the tears hanging from my lashes. "Selena, why are you crying?" I didn't know how to explain it. I didn't know how to put into words the storm of emotions swirling inside me. So I simply leaned against his chest and cried silently for a long, long time. Eventually, Bruno seemed a bit lost. "All right, that's enough.
Stop crying.
I'll take you home. Take me to your place." I had never spent the night at his house before.
But this time I wanted to.
I wanted to be in his bed. I wanted to spend the whole night with him. But all those thoughts, I didn't have the courage to say them aloud. Chapter 14. Bruno's house was big, spacious, and minimalist in design. "Use the bathroom however you like," he said. "But don't go into my study. The rest of the place is yours." He handed me a pair of brand new slippers. Looking at the giant men's slippers like little boats, I couldn't help but ask, "Don't you have women's slippers?" "No." "You've never brought a girlfriend home? Don't you already know whether I've had girlfriends?" He wasn't wrong. We'd grown up together. But everyone has secrets, and Bruno was no exception. As I slipped on the slippers, I asked casually, "So, have you ever liked someone?" Bruno crossed his arms, leaned against the wall, and smiled faintly.
"Yeah."
I bent down to put on the slippers, but his answer made me lose balance and almost fall. Bruno reached out and steadied me. "How much have you had to drink?" "Not much." I straightened up, but swayed again. Without hesitation, Bruno scooped me up. "First, let's get you a shower." After our first round, I lay in his bed, absent-mindedly scrolling through my phone. Bruno had gone to get me water. When he came back, I was looking at WeChat moments. There were red invitations everywhere. People were posting about Oliver's wedding. Message after message popped up, most of them asking if I'd be getting back together with Oliver.
Bruno S. face d'Arconed.
He grabbed my phone. "Come drink some water." I stayed put, refusing to move. "Feed me."
Bruno didn't argue.
He picked me up and helped me drink. Then, without warning, he pinned me to the bed again. This time, he was even more intense. I quickly reached my limit. "Bruno, are you going to see him?"
Who?
"You know who, Oliver. He's getting married, isn't he?" "Why would I go see him? Didn't you say you loved him? That you'd die for him every day?" "Bruno," Selena, answer me. "Are you going to see him?" His tone was harsh. "Bruno, can you ask me that without trapping me?" I frowned, my voice breaking as his movements overwhelmed me. "No." "Answer me first, are you going to see him?" He asked again, each time with greater intensity. I couldn't take it anymore. My voice trembled as I gasped, "No, I won't go see him. Remember what you said." "Bruno, please, slower. I can't." Bruno lowered his head and kissed me deeply, his passion relentless. His endurance was astonishing. I felt like a small boat tossed in a stormy sea, battered by wave after wave, on the verge of breaking apart. Chapter 15. Maybe it was because Bruno had been too rough that night the condom broke. The wedding day of Oliver and Lily hadn't arrived yet, but I had already found out I was pregnant. Staring at the report in my hands, I was utterly stunned. Oliver had said Bruno had someone he liked. Bruno himself had admitted it. There was no future for us. What we had was nothing more than a way to pass the time, to stave off loneliness, to satisfy physical needs. Knowing Bruno's personality, he would only marry the woman he loved. He wouldn't want this baby. Just the thought of that brought tears streaming uncontrollably down my face. I turned off my phone and stayed in my apartment for 2 whole days. Finally, I made a decision. While the baby was still just a tiny embryo, the best option was to let it go. But when I was in the hospital, for drip already hooked up, Bruno burst into the room. In his hand was my signed surgical consent form. I had never seen his face so dark. Those rebellious, sharp eyes were full of ice colder than ever. "Selena." When he said my name, his voice was rough and trembling. That ice seemed to melt, turning into raw pain and deep disappointment. "Why don't you want it?"
Bruno?
I sat up quickly, startled. Selena, why don't you want it? Bruno gripped my shoulders tightly, his fingers visibly trembling. Tears began to stream down my face. Bruno, I just don't want to cause you unnecessary trouble. Is it because you don't want to cause me trouble, or is there another reason? Before I could answer, Bruno let out a bitter laugh. You know Oliver and Lily aren't getting married anymore, don't you? That's why you decided not to keep the baby, isn't it? What are you talking about? I stared at him in total confusion. But I'm not going to let you do as you please. Bruno's eyes burned with fierce intensity. I just called my parents. They already know you're pregnant. They also know that I'm going to marry you. Marry? Yes, marry. Bruno cupped my face in his hands, wiping away my tears one by one. You gave me your word. You promised you'd be with me. You promised we'd make our relationship public. Selena, when you make a promise, you can't break it. But what if someday the woman you love comes back? My tears wouldn't stop. I looked up at him, my face trembling and wet. Bruno, I don't want you to hate me. I don't want her to come back one day and find me in the place that was hers. I don't want you to resent me. That's why before I fall in love with you before the baby is more than just a tiny, unconscious embryo, it'll hurt less to end it now. The woman I love?
Yes.
I asked you once, and you said there was someone you loved. Then why didn't you ask me who she is? Who is she? Bruno held my face and suddenly smiled. Selena, go to my study. You'll find your answer there. Chapter 16. I returned to Bruno's house once again. This time, he handed me a pair of new slippers, women's slippers. They were adorable, pink, and exactly my size. Didn't you say I wasn't allowed in your study? You weren't before. Now you are. Why the change? You'll understand when you go in. Bruno looked a little awkward. I'm going downstairs for a bit to get something, he added. Be careful, don't trip or hurt yourself. Yeah, I know, I replied with a wave of my hand. Bruno's study was spacious, with shelves lined with neatly arranged books. But what stood out most was the desk and the wall behind it. The wall was covered in photos, all different sizes. And it didn't take much to notice the one thing they all had in common. I was in every single one. From kindergarten to elementary school, and as we grew up, though the photos became less frequent with time. On his desk sat a pink photo frame decorated with rhinestones, clearly something a sentimental teenager would choose. Inside was a photo of 2 children. The little girl was me, with 2 oversized bows in my hair and a rather awkward smile. The boy was Bruno, half a head taller, posing smugly in front of the camera. That frame had been a gift for me on Children's Day. Scrawled on the back in clumsy handwriting was a single line, wishing Selena and Bruno will be friends forever. I couldn't help but laugh. But as I laughed, tears began to fall. Suddenly, I remembered back in secondary school when I read The Smiling, Proud Wanderer by Jean Yong. I used to get so upset wondering why the little apprentice girl suddenly fell in love with someone else. Why would she leave her amazing older brother to throw her life away for another man? And now I felt like I had become that little apprentice. I'd run from Bruno, foolishly chasing after Oliver. But unlike her, I was infinitely luckier. I hadn't blindly rushed toward ruin. And I hadn't let go of the person who had loved me silently all this time. Chapter 17. When Bruno returned with several boxes of supplements, I was sitting in his chair reading his diary. That idiot. When we were kids, he used to tease me on purpose just to make me cry. Turns out it was Oliver who gave him the idea. He told Bruno that boys show they like a girl by teasing her and making her cry. Over time, Bruno regretted it. But by then, it was too late. I had already fallen for the gentle and refined Oliver. In the end, he never hated me. What he despised was that version of Selena, the one orbiting around Oliver, whose emotions rose and fell with him, who had lost her own identity. I couldn't imagine how much it must have hurt Bruno to watch all of that. He had thought about giving up, about walking away for good. He considered trying to love someone else, settling for something easier. But in the end, he couldn't. The night I got drunk and he took me with him, that was the only time in his life he had acted without thinking of the consequences, betting everything on one chance. On that page in his diary, there were only 2 words, written clearly and boldly. No regrets. I closed the diary. Bruno opened the study door. When he saw me, The tips of his ears flushed a faint red. He cleared his throat and asked, "What do you want for lunch?" Leaning back in the chair, I reached my hand out to him. Bruno walked toward me, step by step. He took my hand in his, then gently knelt down, pressing his face to my belly. "Selena, is there really a baby here?" "My baby?" I couldn't help but laugh. Leaning down to kiss him, tears slid from my eyes and down his face. "In a few months you'll feel it move." We held each other like that, neither of us wanting to break the quiet happiness of the moment. Chapter 18. The day before Bruno and I were going to register our marriage, Oliver suddenly showed up to see me. By then, I already knew about his breakup with Lily. To be exact, Lily was the one who ended it. After all, no woman could tolerate someone treating marriage like a game. The truth was, Oliver never intended to marry Lily. Even the invitations had been a reckless attempt to provoke me. And the reason for all of this? That night he had seen Bruno and me kissing. How ridiculous. It was from that moment that Oliver slowly began to realize he cared much more than he thought. I listened as he poured out the story of his feelings over the years, speaking with such clarity and conviction, as if trying to convince me. But honestly, I didn't care at all. In the early stages of pregnancy, I was always sleepy. Halfway through his speech, I began to doze off. "Selena, are you getting sleepy?" Oliver stared at me in disbelief. He knew how much I used to like him, how I loved listening to him talk, admiring his eloquence and refined knowledge. But that was all in the past, and I had long since realized that men like him could never compare to someone like Bruno, a man of action. Honestly, I didn't know what I had been thinking before. Stretching lazily, I yawned.
Yeah.
First trimester stuff makes you sleepy all the time. Oliver looked completely bewildered. First trimester? What first trimester? You're pregnant. How can you be pregnant? And why couldn't I be? His reaction felt unbearably loud to me. "If you have nothing else to say, you should go. I want to sleep." "Selena, explain this to me. How did you end up pregnant? How could it happen so fast? You and Bruno, have you been together this whole time?" Oliver must have remembered all those times when Bruno and I were absent from the same gatherings. He completely lost his composure. "Yes, we've been together for a while now," I answered indifferently. "But what does that have to do with you? After all, there was never anything between us." I stretched again, feeling the fatigue in my body. "I'm going to bed now. I won't see you out." "Selena, you've been in love with me for so many years. I can't believe you fell for someone else so fast," Oliver said, his face full of resentment. "If this is just because you're pregnant, of course it's not just because of the pregnancy. I really like Bruno. I liked him even when we were kids. I just lost my mind for a few years. But now I've found my way again." I stood up and sincerely advised him. "Honestly, Lily is a wonderful girl. You should seriously consider getting her back. Otherwise you'll regret it one day. Selena, don't come looking for me again. Bruno is very possessive and gets jealous easily." Chapter 19. As expected, when Bruno found out that Oliver had come to see me, he was jealous all night. I spent a long time kissing and hugging him, trying to calm him down. But suddenly, Bruno got up and went to the bathroom. When he came out, he wouldn't let me get close. After all, I was still in the first trimester, not even 3 months along yet. The doctor had strictly advised us to avoid any intimacy during this period. Originally, my mom wanted me to stay at her house for a while, but Bruno refused firmly and had to reassure both our families multiple times before they agreed to let me stay with him. At first, we slept under separate blankets, behaving properly. But it didn't take long before I couldn't resist sneaking into his blanket, craving his hugs and warmth. "Selena, we really can't do this right now." "I'm not asking for that.
I just want you to hold me."
I snuggled into his arms for a while, found the most comfortable position, and closed my eyes, content. But clearly Bruno was having a hard time. "Selena, I can't sleep like this."
Relax, Bruno.
"How am I supposed to relax?" He brushed a lock of hair from my face, his warm breath tickling my ear. "With a person I love lying in my arms like this, even a saint couldn't take it." "Then what do you want to do?" Bruno hugged me tightly, burying his face in my neck. After a long moment, he whispered softly, "Just let me hold you a little longer, Selena." I reached out and stroked him, feeling my heart tremble. I couldn't believe how lucky I was. Is it that hard to bear? I'll take another cold shower later.
Bruno.
Yeah. Aren't you forgetting to tell me something? What? I love you. Bruno let out a low laugh, full of happiness. Selena, I love you. I sighed softly. All right, I love you too. And after saying that, I couldn't help but giggle. Under the warmth of the night, we held each other tightly beneath the blanket, laughing together. It felt like we had returned to our carefree childhood when Selena and Bruno were just two innocent kids. But now, as adults, our love would last a lifetime.